Fox News alert, Elon Musk exposes Twitter files showing the censorship of Hunter Biden's laptop and the tech giant's political bias. One portion of the thread reading, by 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team, and the reply would come back, handled. Our next guest calls this chilling. Clay Travis, Outkick founder, joins us now. Clay, good morning. So when you see what was revealed last night, what's your biggest takeaway?
This makes Watergate seem like jaywalking, and I don't think that's hyperbole. As Elon Musk continues to release all of this clearly high-level communication between major aspects of the Democrat Party and big tech executives, this is just going to continue to grow. So far, what we have seen, Will, is about interactions between the Biden campaign and top executives at Twitter. That is, before Joe Biden was actually elected. Clearly, there was a rig job, a collusion in force in this aspect associated with the New York Post story. But what I'm actually more intrigued to see, Will, is what did the Biden administration do when they became president, when they were in the White House? Because we know Jen Psaki bragged from the White House podium about how the White House was regularly demanding that different tweets and that different people be censored on these platforms. That's part one. I'm looking forward to seeing what happened when they're in the administration. The other thing is, Will, if this is happening at Twitter, do we doubt that it's happening at Facebook? Do we doubt that it's happening at Instagram, at YouTube, at Google? All of the other big tech companies, which are clearly aligned with the left wing of the Democrat Party, all we're seeing is one small snip of the larger context, right? Because Elon Musk is making all this public. It's certainly not just Twitter that had this relationship with the Biden campaign and then moving into the Biden administration, which calls into question many different aspects of unconstitutional collusion once Biden became president of the United States and they were making demands to bring down their political foes.
I share that focus, Clay. You're absolutely right. This is not simply a Twitter story, and it's not simply a Hunter Biden laptop story. Once that administration was in power, not just what other platforms, but what other stories were manipulated. You and I both know the answer to some of that question, COVID. But how far does that go?
Let me mention this too, Will. New York Times this morning, right before I was going to come on, I went through their entire app. Not one single story about Elon Musk or Twitter. Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness is literally at the top of their newspaper. Not one single story about Elon Musk or Twitter. Will, they've been covering everything Elon Musk does with a fine-tooth comb every time he sends a tweet.
And then today,
it's been covered. And suddenly all of this, they can't even bother to cover any of it? It's crazy.
Clay, as we always do on Saturdays together, we talk about what's going down today. It's championship weekend. You're focused, as always, on the SEC. Georgia, LSU. It would be a really big upset if we saw Georgia go down.
It would be. I think LSU is going to keep this more competitive than they did last week against Texas A&M. I think Brian Kelly's team will play decently. But I think ultimately Georgia is going to win. One thing in the wake of last night's big win by Utah, congratulations to the Utes on winning the Pac-12 title, to keep an eye on is what exactly is going to happen in this game between Kansas State and TCU.
Oh, TCU's
Major
in. Come on, Clay,
implications.
Right? They're in. They're in the playoffs.
I think they're in. But let me ask you this, Will. What happens if, for instance, Purdue were to beat Michigan? What does that do to Ohio State's claim? I think that's kind of an intriguing angle to contemplate as well.
You and I are going to talk about this on Monday's edition of the Will Cain podcast. My thought, Georgia, Michigan, and TCU are in. That story is over, and it looks like now Ohio State is back in over USC. Even if TCU, Georgia, and Michigan lose, they should be in.
I agree with you on that, although I will say if TCU lost badly, like we saw last night USC lose badly, that could change the calculus of what people's general minds are as it pertains to that. I agree. They should be in.
More of this kind of debate over at Outkick.com, and Clay and I will be talking again, like I said, on Monday. Thanks, Clay.
Hey, appreciate it, Will. Y'all have good weekends.
See you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.